Hi guys, my name is Poober. It is episode 30 of our Factorio 0.15 playthrough, which means it is time to revamp our furnace setup. So before we go ripping up our current furnace setup, we are going to have to expand our power. And the reason for that is that once we have electric furnaces pulling from our current power source, it won't be enough to sustain the new demand. So we're going to prophylactically put something down just to get ahead of ourselves, and that way we don't get into a negative feedback cycle with our electricity. I am going to use Mad Zuri's blueprint here, which I will link below, but his is nice and it's almost ratio perfect, and I'm just going to plop it pretty much anywhere out of the way. Like I mentioned, it's not for the aesthetics. I can move it in the future if I want to. We'll do right there so we have a little bit of walking room in between. One thing that is nice about this blueprint is that there is a RoboPort in the middle of the panels there, so we never really have to worry about there not being the logistic coverage or the construction robot coverage to get to where they need to go. Once the RoboPort is down, they can essentially, place it from anywhere in the map. So we'll probably do a couple tiles of this because I know the electric furnaces are going to really have a huge pull on the electricity. I think that is right. I think that's how we line it up. There we go. And let's keep going. And thankfully that factory I did a couple episodes ago for our solar panel and accumulator layout should be pretty quick, so this should get built pretty quickly. So while we're waiting for our robots to finish building that, let's go check on our current electric furnace supply that we have in our system. We're going to need about almost 400 electric furnaces by the time this is all said and done. So I've been trying to stockpile them, so let's go take a look and see what we're at currently. Here we go. Looks like it's still being built, and we have just a little over 150 right now, so it's got a long ways to go. I do only have this one assembler, but it's doing okay. I'm not going to build another one for now. I don't mind waiting. So the next thing we'll want to do is start to rip stuff up. I'm going to start with the easy stuff to try to keep our factory still running. So we'll just start with the concrete for now. There we go. And by the way, that copper patch that was right here, you guys, I mined out completely. I didn't rip it up at all. So it didn't go to waste, which was something I was really thankful for. Then let's go ahead and do the walls. And there we go. That's a good start. And how many robots do we have in our system right now? About 750 of each. So that's a pretty good amount. That should increase our deconstruction speed as well as construction once we have our blueprints down. And then how are our solar panels doing? Pretty good. So we do need to actually connect this with the network, or else it does not serve its purpose. There we go. So that should connect, and then the accumulator should start to charge and help us out with that. So let's continue deconstructing here. Again, we're trying to do some of the simple stuff first and then get along with the bigger stuff here. I do want to keep this running as long as possible because once this is decommissioned, we're not going to be having any more influx of iron or copper or steel or stone for that matter, and those are all things that we need to make the electric furnaces. So I'm going to have a little break right here. We're going to let the robots continue to work on the solar panels and finish letting the electric furnaces continue to stockpile so that we have enough by the time we're ready to put our blueprints down. But instead of having you guys watch the boring process of this getting deconstructed and then rebuilt again, let's have one last look at our current furnace setup. And here we have it. We now have over 400 electric furnaces devoted to this smelting setup here, each of these going 8 tiles high apart from our stone section to the far right. It takes up pretty much the whole screen, even when zoomed out. So it's been a really impressive feat to get this done. I've spent literally hours between the last cut getting all of this built and decommissioned from the previous factory and building up our main bus and things like that, even though it's just been about 1 second for you guys in between the previous cut and now. So let's zoom in here so you can see more specifically what's gone into each tile. And I consider one tile the 12 electric furnaces within that tile. And it was able to fit for the most part in the previous footprint that we had, and I was pretty much just able to plop down the electric furnaces and rearrange the belts a little bit to get this set up. Let's walk over to where we have our steel though, and we've got a little bit of a more different setup there. The reason for that is because we're using half of the tiles in the steel section here devoted to actually smelting iron ore, and then 100% of the iron ore products go back into being smelted into the steel here. That way we don't actually end up stealing anything from our iron plate products, which are in the middle left section here. You will notice though that we are very lacking on our iron plate throughput, and the reason for that is no longer because we're not having enough electric furnaces or enough smelting going on, but because we don't have nearly enough iron ore coming through. And that's not for a lack of trying. I mean, I do have a farm over here for iron. It's not a whole lot, but it does help a little bit. Another iron farming section over here, and then the third one over there. So I'm having to go a longer distance to get our iron, and it's all bused by belt at this point. We don't have trains yet. We do have a couple more patches down here to the far right, but that would require a completely brand new, basically belts worth of iron coming up from the right section. So I haven't wanted to embark on that task yet. I'm thinking instead we will start on trains. But before we get started on some trains, let me show you the rest of what we've been able to get done. You'll notice here I've revamped kind of our main bus input a little bit. So we've got our iron products coming in to merge to the middle along with our copper plate. And then this is the section, you know, of course, feeding into our main bus of the first circle. But here I've got two new factories devoted to green circuits. This was something I did want to put in from pretty much day one, but I didn't have the room for it because we did have furnaces kind of fitting in this section here. So we do have the room now, but of course not the iron to feed that. We also are still lacking on our electricity, even though you'll notice I did plant several more solar panels down even since the last time I saw you. We've got all of these now devoted for electricity, as well as this one over here, and we're still having some electricity issues, even worse at nighttime. The one thing I don't like about this setup though is that our stone smelting section over here looks kind of unimpressive when compared with the rest of it. We've got kind of this gap here where it seems like some smelters should be. So if you guys have any suggestions for what I can put here, leave it a comment down below and I will be glad to review that. A couple last minute things I did was transplant our red circuit blueprint of this factory over here to the right side. This was originally a green circuit factory, so we now have that symmetrical. And the last thing I did off camera was put in this cement that transitions into our research facility over here. I did leave these gaps in the cement on purpose. I think it makes it kind of look a little bit abandoned or kind of rugged, something like that. And thought that looked kind of cool, so I decided to leave that in. So with that said, let's go ahead and we'll get started on some trains to hopefully improve our iron output. So we're back up here at the top of our base, at the top of the smelting section, and I'm going to put in our first set of trains. I've already called for a couple locomotives and our cargo wagons, and we're going to be putting our station here for unloading our iron ore. So I've got a couple blueprints already from something I found on Reddit with some basic belt balancers and things like that that will get going, including a train and loading station. But I know that I want basically a 6 belt output for our iron ore. We're going to be having 2 devoted to the steel section and then 4 separate lanes for our iron plate itself. So let me start to kind of map out where I'm expecting those lanes to go. We'll want something like that. We'll have another lane there. This will start the lanes over there. I think that's when... Oh, I see what I did wrong. Okay. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Yep, that's 6 right there. So the next thing I want to do is extend this up a little bit. And then I'm going to grab the belt balancer here. And I want to make sure that it is kind of even with this row here. So that looks more even to me. So let me correct our belts a little bit. There we go. I think that should be right. Oh, and our bots don't quite have the coverage, so I'm going to put... Or yes, they do. Not sure why they just kind of immediately stopped. They must have had to power up a little bit. So let's now attach our train unloading part. We'll do right there. That should be fine. Now we just have to worry about connecting these sections. And there our bots go doing all the work for us. Okay, then we just need to finish putting in our stacked inserters, which I'll just do by hand. I don't think the robots have enough in their inventory. And that's all done, so it looks like now we just need to add in the rail itself. So early on, I think we'll just do a standard 1-2-1 train. So let me go ahead and put down our cargo wagons and make sure that we've got everything lined up where it should be. And then our locomotive here. And then I think we'll just do a couple of requester chests to feed it the coal it will need. So request, let's do 300. And let's start to connect this up to our electrical system here. We'll just put a pole right there for now. Perfect. So that's now working. This should be getting coal, I think, any minute now. Let's double check that we're in the network. Oh, we're not. Okay, so let's add another roboport. We'll do one right here. And then we will underground this section of the belt and extend this so that we can still fit the one train that we'll need. Let me add my locomotive first. Oh, there it went. And I will request coal again on this side as well. We'll do another 300. And where'd my underground belts go? There we go. So then we just have to put in our train stop. So let's start connecting up our belts, basically. And eventually I'll kind of clean up the shape of these belts, but for now we need to worry about more practicality than the looks of everything. So let's keep going straight here. I'm still not 100% used to these new placement techniques for the belts. And line that up real quick. I think for now we'll just do one train itself. We won't worry about having multiple trains on the track. Oh, there we go. And I will have to grab a lot more track before we can continue much further. So let me have the bots bring them to me real quick. Okay, let's try that. Let's see how far we can get with that set of rails. I'm having them bring me about 100 each time. which I know isn't a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, we're gonna definitely need more. And we just made it to the end. This is where I'm going to be setting up our next iron outpost. I want to get rid of this rock here. So let's go ahead and put down our train station. We'll do right there. Let's call this train farming. Perfect. And then that means our wagons will go kind of where it's highlighted in the white. So I'm just going to set up a couple inserters there. So I just got back after putting in more belts and inserters and even our miners. So now our ore patch is now fully saturated to this top one here, which is over 1 million rich, as well as this little patch here, which isn't quite as rich, but I think between the two it should keep us sustained for quite a while. And it even looks like our train is working. It made its way from the top station all the way down here. So with that, I'm going to call it an episode and catch a ride home. But I appreciate you guys joining me, and I hope to see you for the next one. Fly, my pretties.